The more that I see and read about Hogwarts Legacy, the more excited for the game I become. Hogwarts Legacy is set to allow players to explore the wizarding world like never before. Players will explore Hogwarts, see fantastic beasts, and of course, cast some spells. In this video, I want to discuss the various types of spells that we will see in the game, from different charms to jinxes and even some dark magic curses. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Beginning with spells, let's start with a classic, the stunning spell also known as the Stupefy charm. Stupefy is probably one that you will recognize from either the books or the films. When used in combat, it is visualized as a red beam to stun opponents. Now I believe in the movies it did look a little bit different. However, in the game it will be this red beam. It leaves the target unconscious without leaving real lasting damage. The earliest known use of Stupefy was in 1782, when Flavius Belby attempted to use a stunning spell against an attacking Lethifold, but he only succeeded in blasting a hole through his bedroom door. Next up we have Protego, the shield charm. The shield charm protects the user from harm by creating a shield around them or others. We first see this charm used in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, when we see Harry use this spell against Professor Snape. In the gameplay footage for Hogwarts Legacy, it also appears that the player character was also using this spell to parry and deflect different enemy attacks. Next up we have Accio, the summoning charm. This charm brings an object to its caster. Accio has been shown in the gameplay footage being very useful and necessary in the game's puzzle solving, pulling different objects toward the player as well as unlocking different secret passageways. And as we can see from the footage, the Accio charm can actually lift up and pull enemies towards you as well. It is said to be one of the oldest known spells to the wizarding world. And based on the gameplay we've seen so far, it looks like Accio is going to be a very popular and useful charm throughout the game. Up next is Diffindo, the severing charm. The severing charm is used to precisely cut an object, and it was invented in the 15th century by wizarding seamstress Delphina Crimp, who was actually trying to create an easy and convenient way of cutting cloth and thread. Based on the gameplay that we've seen, it looks like it can actually be used in an offensive way to break through the shield of an enemy. Diffindo is typically taught to second years and can actually be quite dangerous if used incorrectly. Up next is another classic charm, Lumos, also known as the wand lighting charm. This charm produces a light from the end of the user's wand and is used to illuminate an area. Even though it seems like a relatively simple charm, it was not actually invented until the 18th century, and was actually publicly used first in the Ministry of Magic by its creator, Lavina Monk Stanley. And this is a spell that's typically taught in first year Defense Against the Dark Arts and Charms classes. And while we're on the topic of lighting charms, I want to talk about one other charm that may possibly be in the game, but is not confirmed. In addition to the Lumos charm, there may be also a need for the Expecto Patronum spell, also known as the Patronus charm. This is a spell that was introduced in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. It's a defensive spell which produces a silver animal guardian used to protect a witch or wizard against Dementors. And as we've seen in one of the gameplay trailers for Hogwarts Legacy, there were Dementors roaming around Hogwarts at some point in time. So whether or not the Patronus charm is in the game is yet to be seen. However, there may be some use for it based on the gameplay that we've seen so far. Up next is Glacius, also known as the freezing charm. This is a charm that freezes its target with ice-cold air. In the gameplay footage, it was used to slow the troll that was attacking the player character, but it was pretty ineffective due to the troll's resistance from ice and cold. Some have thought this to be the spell Impedimenta, which also freezes something moving toward you. However, it seems the overwhelming majority of people believe that this is the Glacius or freezing charm. Up next is another well-known spell, and that is Reparo, also known as the mending charm. This charm is used to repair broken objects or structures, and in the gameplay footage, it was used to repair a broken bridge. It is said that Reparo can be used to counter the effects of the Diffindo charm. Up next is a really cool spell, and that is Descendo, which is a charm that slams or lowers objects into the ground. In the gameplay footage, we got to see the player character use Descendo on some enemies, as well as use it as a finisher in the gameplay video on a goblin enemy, repeatedly slamming him into the ground over and over. This could also likely be used in different puzzles throughout the game. It'll be really interesting to see how these different charms are used throughout the game in different ways. Next up is another popular spell, and that is Expelliarmus, the disarming charm. This charm disarms enemies and can even knock them back when used with enough power. This charm first appeared in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, when Professor Snape cast it on Professor Lockhart, disarming him and throwing him to the end of the platform. In the gameplay footage that we saw from Hogwarts Legacy, it was also used to disarm opponents to then use their weapons against them. The player character disarmed the knights from their swords, then used another spell to destroy them with it. I'm really excited to see more about how we can use this charm to combine with others to really create some crazy damage and havoc throughout the game. That'll be fun. Next up, we have another famous spell, Wingardium Leviosa, the levitation charm. However, in the gameplay footage, it sounds like they've just went with a shorter Leviosa instead of the full Wingardium Leviosa. As most people know, this is a levitation charm used to make objects fly or levitate. It is typically taught to first years at Hogwarts and made most famous by Hermione Granger while she was correcting Ron on his pronunciation. However, the levitation charm was first developed all the way back in the 16th century. Up next is Incendio, the fire-making charm. Incendio produces a jet of flames and it's used to set fire to an object or a person or a creature. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of things we can set fire to. This spell was also taught to students during their first year at Hogwarts in charms, which thinking back sounds like a bad idea. This charm looks like it will be extremely effective when used in combination with other spells, as it looked like the player character used this spell at the end of many spell combinations. Now that we went through the different charms that we're going to see in Hogwarts Legacy, let's go through a couple Jinxes. First up is Oppugno. This Jinx will cause conjured creatures or other movable objects under the control of the caster to attack the target. Now this is most likely seen in the trailer when the character takes an object and throws it at enemies, such as when the character uses Expelliarmus to lift up the swords of the knights and then send them back at them, destroying them, as well as when the player character picks up an object such as a red barrel and throws it at the enemy for an explosion. This should be a really interesting spell or jinx to use throughout the game and should have a lot of versatility. Next on our list is Levicorpus, the Dangling Jinx. This was actually a jinx that was said to be created by Professor Snape under the title of the Half-Blood Prince, and it was later used against him by James Potter in a flashback scene of Order of the Phoenix. The jinx lifts enemies into the air, and as most of us have probably traditionally seen it, it's supposed to lift that target by the ankle. So there has been some debate as to whether this is what has been used in the gameplay footage to lift individuals. However, this appears to be the best explanation and overall the most accepted spell that is being used to lift people into the air, since Leviosa is typically used only on objects or clothing, not necessarily people. However, if you do have a better explanation to what is lifting individuals into the air, then be sure and let us know in the comments below. So now that we've went through charms and jinxes, let's move on to the curses. And this is where we're going to talk about a little bit of the dark magic as well. The first curse that we're going to talk about is Confringo, the blasting curse. It is a spell or a curse used to make things explode and was first seen in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. This spell has often been seen in gameplay footage used in combination with other spells and stuns to provide a devastating blow to the opponent. However, there's one scene that I noticed where this also looks very similar to the Expulso curse, which is a curse used to produce immense explosions, blasting the target apart with a burst of blue light. During the gameplay footage that I will show here, there is a combination of spells resulting in a finishing blow of blue light, which is very reminiscent of the Expulso curse. I'd be interested to get your all's opinion on which spell you think this might be. However, either way, there's going to be a curse where you get to blast or blow up some things. Next up is Petrificus Totalus, the Body Bind Curse. This curse petrifies the victim's body, rendering them completely immobile. This is most well known for being used on Neville Longbottom in the Sorcerer's Stone. We can also see this used in the gameplay footage in combination with stealth or an invisibility potion, I believe, where the player character sneaks up undetected and uses the curse on an enemy who falls to the floor. And of course we have probably what is the most famous curse, also known as the Unforgivable Killing Curse, Avada Kedavra. Avada Kedavra is most famously used by Voldemort in the books and the films. It is one of the 3 unforgivable curses. It is accompanied by its famous flash of green light, and its only known counterspell is Sacrificial Protection. However, it can be blocked or dodged with a physical barrier. The curse was first created during the early Middle Ages by different dark wizards and witches as a quick way to win a duel. However, in 1717, the Ministry of Magic declared the curse along with 2 other curses to be considered unforgivable, resulting in a life sentence without parole in Azkaban. It will be really interesting to see how this curse is used in the games, whether it will be just used for a cutscene in the game's story, or if players will have the choice to use it more. Either way, it definitely sets a tone for the game and the decisions your player may have to make. There are also a couple things here at the end of the video that I want to discuss that may be in the game in terms of spells, however they have not been confirmed and we do not know exactly for sure if they will be or not. The gameplay footage also discussed mysterious magic that even your professors don't understand, such as when the player called down a lightning bolt from the heavens to destroy an opponent. Some speculate that this lightning bolt will be a finisher that you'll be able to use in combat. However, no one has really said exactly what the incantation is. So if you have any idea or a better idea than me, then be sure and let me know down in the comments below. One of my thoughts is that it possibly might be Tempest Jinx, known also simply as Tempest. It's an atmospheric jinx that causes bolts of lightning to strike from a cloudy sky at a target. This was once seen used by Grindelwald when he was trying to escape custody. However, I've also seen that it's a very similar spell used by Voldemort to test the strength of the Elder Wand. So like I said, I don't know for sure if it is either one of those things, however that's just my speculation. There have also been some rumors about transfiguration spells that may turn one object into another. In one of the early gameplay trailers we saw a Boggart, which is an immortal shape-shifting non-being that takes on the form of its observer's worst fear. This made me speculate that as a counter we may see the spell Ridiculous, which is a spell that transforms Boggarts into a humorous shape as seen in the Order of the Phoenix. We have not seen this spell yet in the gameplay footage, but we did see the Boggart in the game's trailer, so I thought there may be a possibility for it. So let me know what you all think as well. Alright everyone, so that is going to be it for my video on Hogwarts Legacy's spells, charms, jinxes, and dark magic curses. Be sure and let me know which of those you are most excited to use and learn more about or see more about when you get to play the game. Thank you all for watching the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Be sure and subscribe if you want to see more Hogwarts Legacy news in the future, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Got you thinking about that.